I'm going to call the City Council Urban Affairs and Housing Committee meeting to order. This is our first meeting of the new legislative session. I remain as chair. We have Councilor Landers as vice chair and voting members. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at my old list, that's why.
I've been demoted and you've been promoted.
Councilor Doucette, and the voting members are Councilor Landers, Navin, and Wagner. We also have with us some members who are not voting but are certainly welcome to participate in discussion. We have 3 items on our agenda tonight. The first one is order number 2021-18046B, a petition from William Camuso on behalf of Camuso Enterprises, LLC, to operate a gas station, Shell station at 431 Lincoln Street on a 24-hour basis pursuant to Chapter 342 of the Code of the City of Marlborough. So you all have in your packets a whole lot of information that is going backwards in time. This started off with us in 2020 and was along with a petition for the sign that was given to him, and then we held this up dealing with the sense that the lights were too bright, and when they were looking at all that information, and then a couple of other issues came up, and so it's finally back on our agenda. We have Attorney Falk with us this evening representing the client. We have Mr. Camuso here with us. I don't know if either of you want to open up with any other comments, or if we just get into the discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brian Falk, for the record, on behalf of Camuso Enterprises, LLC, and Bill Camuso is here with me as well. That was a very good summary of our procedural status at this point. This was a petition for a 24-hour operation. This business operated for 24 hours for many years. Came to Mr. Camuso's attention last year that he had not gotten the proper authorization for that because the city code requires no more than 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. without a vote of the city council. So this petition was for a 24-hour operation. From discussions with councilors and hearing feedback from the neighbors, we understand that 24-hour operation may not be acceptable at this location. We're hoping to discuss with you tonight is a modification of our request. So the operating hours would be 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. Those 2 hours in the morning would make a difference, quite a big difference for Mr. Camuso's operation. He frequently, especially in the summer months, but really all year round, frequently has contractors, landscapers, and others who have early morning hours looking to fill up and fuel up at that time. Frequently, folks are waiting for the gas station and the convenience store to open right at its opening hours. So the additional 2 hours in the morning, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., we don't feel would have a significant impact in the neighborhood, but it would have a significant impact on Mr. Camuso's business.
Right, thank you. So I did have Ms. Bullock give everybody a copy of the document. I think at our last meeting, I had said that I would create something that would allow us to either do the 24-hour or something else. So there are some conditions that are there. I know councilors did also receive a communication this evening from Councilor Irish. I'm not going to read the entire letter into the record, but I think that the sense of it is that he is willing to support a limited exemption that would grant operational hours to open at 5 a.m. and close at 11 p.m., and I'll give him an opportunity to make further comments if he wishes to. At this point, I'm going to open it up to committee members for comment, questions, if there are any. Councilor Navin?
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. Most of the questions that are, or points I was going to make are subject to Councilor Irish's points. I was wondering if it might be possible to do this a little out of order, only because I don't want to start talking about a proposal that you just referenced from Councilor Irish without giving him the opportunity to speak to it. I know it's a bit unorthodox, and you are the chair, so I don't want to put you on the spot there, but...
I'm fine with letting him speak. I know we typically take voting members' comments first and then open it up to anybody else, but under the circumstances, I think it's appropriate to let him have his opportunity to comment as the ward counselor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councilor Navin. Good evening, Mr. Camuso. I know that I spoke to you way back. I was totally opposed to the 24-hour operation there. But I do realize, in that area, and to serve the residents, I do believe in a compromise. And when I spoke to you, I do stick by that, because you do run a nice business in that area. So I would definitely be in support of the 5 to 11, which is similar to, I believe, the All-Town Convenience down Route 20. They're same idea, closer to Route 20. And this area is a little bit different, being more in the residential area with people's homes in proximity of the neighborhood. So that is the reason why I would certainly compromise and support 5 to 11, but I would not in any way support a 24/7. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, Councilor Navin, do you have comments then?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate that, and I understand that, we're talking about a discrepancy of about an hour then from what is being proposed to, what the ward councilor is, open to supporting. Curious, what that impact would be in that discrepancy between 4 and 5, understanding that, if people are coming in early, right, they want to get sandwiches for the day, they want to gas up their trucks and whatnot. Do you have a sense of kind of what that difference will look like over that hour? Understanding, I assume that, your employees can be in, obviously, in advance of 5 o'clock when you would open to prepare food, to get ready for the day, maybe a bit of a rush of an onslaught as, people may be coming in right at 5, especially as the sun's coming up a little bit earlier in that part of the summer. But do you kind of have an understanding of what the impact would be if we move to 5 and, give a candid assessment of that?
Well, I don't have any percentages, but when we closed from being 24 to 6 to 11, I lost about 20% of the total sales. And most of it took place between 11 to midnight and then from 4 to 6, with the greater amount from 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
It really starts picking up, or it used to start picking up at around 4:30 in the morning. It's primarily in the summer, not as much in the winter. The landscape is
when it's,
take off in the morning, they fill up the trucks and get their water and food for the day. And that usually starts at 4:30,
Okay.
4:30.
And do you see the same kind of corresponding business at your other location during those times?
The
or
other
is it-
location is different because it's on the highway, so we actually get, action all night long. Of course, it's less at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning than
Sure.
it is at 4, but.
But you're seeing that same landscaper business during those hours?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that store is just much busier.
Right, yep. Okay. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I hope we can get a compromise as far as the earliest that you guys can open. I think, it might be something that, based upon the time of year, we could do winter times opens at 5, summertime opens at 4. I'd be open to that if that's part of a compromise we can get in place. Just because it seems to be the demand's mostly in the summer anyway. So, but I think we'll see what we can do as far as decision of the council. Thank you.
I'm going to go over to Councilor Landers. I had seen his hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think, looking at the timing, the clock, I think 5 is probably a good starting time, simply because your landscaping crew, they really can't get on site until 7, and that, you got to keep that in the back of your mind. But it does give them 5 to 7 to gas up their equipment, fill up their gas cans, order their food, maybe consume some of it, and then head towards the site. Now, assuming the site's within, a half-hour drive, or, a half hour, something like that. So, if they can do what they need to do between 5 and, say, 7, but as you mentioned, 4:30 to 5:30 is a good time. So I think it lines up pretty good. I had no great objection, to the other hours. But I think the ward councilor, has a good point here. His people are a little concerned. 4 is pretty early. So I think, Madam Chair, I would certainly support 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. That takes care of the morning, and I can see where that would be a good business time, because people are dying to get going, they get equipment to fill up and buy, and food, and so I think I would support that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Wagner?
I would agree that the 5 to 7, because the point that Council Landers made was that they can't really get started till 7 a.m. And I would guess that the majority of the people who are filling up at that gas station are working within a 2-hour radius. So, that gives them a lot of time to work with, and it feels like a compromise. This is an impact on the community. I'm listening to what, Council Irish says. Again, he came out adamantly against 24 hours. This feels like a reasonable compromise to keep a window to address that business in the morning, and also trying to limit the impact on the neighbors who live nearby.
Thank you. Anybody else with comments, questions? Councilor Dumas.
Thank you. So running a business here in the city, I understand the frustration in leaving dollars on the table. But I guess my question to you specifically regarding the 20%, the letter that you have in this packet was written in June of 2020. So regarding that 20%, I know that my business probably lost about 20% as well because of the pandemic shutdown. So if you could, I'd be more open to the 24 hours if you can show data that specifically states that the shutdown of the 24 hours was in direct relationship to the 20% and not because of COVID, because of the shutdown. So it's just hard for me. So if you had data showing January, February, March, what those numbers were compared as opposed to a year, because I can't base 2020 on 2019 just because the numbers aren't there because of people not showing up.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a hard sell to say, oh, you lost 20%. Well, how and where? Like, there's no differentiate with that, if that makes sense. And also to Councilor Doucette's point, owning a business, you need consistency. So to have business hours in the summer and the winter, it's just not going to work because people will not remember when you're open and when you're closed, because honestly, they don't care. They just want to know if you're open or not. So I like the idea of being open at 5, but I understand the frustration, and I'm a numbers guy. I need to know if that 20% is accurate based upon the shutdown or because the world shut down, if that makes sense.
That number was based on the sales just prior to closing. So I don't remember exactly, but it would have been, April, May, June of 2020.
Right, and that's the data that I would like to see. Because it could have been the pandemic, or because people weren't driving, people were remote. Like, my business has definitely changed even now still. So my business model has completely changed because of COVID, and I think yours as well, because people aren't just traveling anymore because they're working from home. So I don't think it's the discrepancy of the 24 hours. And it could very well be. I want the proof to back that up, if that makes sense. But thank you, Councilor Roby.
All right, thank you. So for me, I guess the numbers are important, but I think more important is that he was operating the 24 hours illegally.
Oh, 100%.
And that we now need to fix that. The neighbors did state that they were not in favor. They didn't even want us to give him the permit that we did to allow the new sign. But I believe that the lighting has changed, and so there is some less lighting, less bleed. Hopefully that makes the neighbors a little happier. But I think we need to take them into consideration. So I personally would think that having it be 5 o'clock versus 4 o'clock is probably a reasonable compromise. As was noted, we don't have, you can't operate in the city before 7 o'clock anyway, so I think that 2-hour window is probably good for people to be able to get what they need and then get to their business. I did see Councilor Ossing's hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess listening to Mr. Camuso saying that this work really starts at 4:30, if the ward council is amenable to that, and to have the consistent set of hours at work, would 4:30 be a amenable start time with your conditions that say it's really for 1 year, and you come back here, and if it looks like it's not working to the council's satisfaction, we can then address it again. But the 4:30 would be a compromise. It's not 24. It addresses where you think most of your business starts showing up at 4:30, so we can, make sure that the business end is working all right. Just something for the council to consider, or the committee to consider. Thank you,
I
Madam
guess
Chair.
I'll put that to you, Counselor Irish.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, President Husing. I would not budge on to 4:30, only for the fact, one, it is in that particular neighborhood, and two, existing right now, the all-town convenience is, I believe, 5 to 11 currently right now. And we could certainly adopt that particular language and go forward, and then Mr. Camuso could go forward with his business. And I do realize, early on, no fault of your own, that you were running a 24/7, and obviously the business had a better point of revenue at that point. But yes, I would definitely compromise on the 5 to 11, not the 4:30, only because currently, right now, on the east end, there is language already on the books for those working hours for the convenience store.
All right, we've had a chance for everybody to have some input. Does anybody have a motion?
Motion to set the time, forget what the wording is of this, from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. as the work hours of operations for 421 Lincoln Street, Shell Station.
All right, so everybody has a copy of what I had typed up. So it is the application of William Camuso to extend an exemption under City Code, Chapter 342, Article 1, Section 2, allowing it to operate from 5 a.m. until 11 p.m. at the service station at 431 Lincoln Street, with the following conditions. In regard to both the location and holder, the exemption shall be non-transferable. The exemption shall be issued for an initial period of 1 year from the date of approval, and thereafter, at the discretion of the City Council, may be renewed for a successive 5-year period. The petitioner shall install, maintain, and use a video surveillance and video recording system to monitor entryways and sales attendant positions, and I believe you had confirmed that you have that at a prior meeting. Petitioner shall install and maintain a silent robbery panic alarm, which must be monitored by a central alarm system. The alarm activators must be installed at all sales attendant positions. And the petitioner shall permit the chief of police or his designee to inspect upon demand the video surveillance, video monitoring, and alarm systems. If anything's found to be not in compliance, the hours go back to 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. until compliance is achieved. And the petitioner will not allow any automotive repair work to be performed on the premises. I don't know do we need to send this to legal to make sure it's in proper form, or does it have to be put into an order form, or can we just approve this as I submitted it? Anybody have an opinion? Ms. Bully? Okay, so we have a motion to approve.
Approve and
this.
send to the legal department.
I think we can still approve it and refer it to legal to make sure it's in
Yes.
proper form, and then it would be on a future agenda for a vote. Does that work for everybody?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, so I can report
moved.
this out, and we can just wait for it to come back. I'll report it out on the 14th, and then I believe our next meeting is the 28th. So hopefully it would be reviewed by legal at that point, and we can get this final vote. All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so the motion carries. We will report this out and send it off to legal.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Camuso. All right, our next item on the agenda is order number 21-108-418B, referencing 21-100-100-8395. A communication from Attorney Falk for application for site plan approval from Aubuchon Realty Company related to a proposed expansion and upgrade of the retail plaza located at 661 Boston Post Road East within the Wayside Zoning District. So you all remember, we did approve the special permit, and it is been looked at by site plan. I believe everybody has the information from, we received a letter from, or an email from Priscilla Ryder giving us input from all of the department heads in her simple email that she sent. So I will let Attorney Falk go through this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With me is Matt Bombasi from Buller Engineering, the site engineer on the project. Again, excellent summary of our procedural status. This is in the Wayside Zoning District, so the council is the site plan approval authority rather than the site plan committee. So we've worked with the site plan committee several times. They have no further recommendations. They have the draft set of conditions that I drafted. They made some changes, and this is the final set that they recommend. So at this point, it would be a vote by this committee and then by the council, and then we would be free to apply for a building permit.
All right, so everybody received a copy. We got one, the draft from Attorney Falk, and then we received another copy from Ms. Ryder. I believe the difference between the two is that Mr. Attorney Falk's copy had on page 1, under site plan approval, final conditions, the language of OSHA, all contractors shall abide by OSHA regulations as appropriate, including but not limited to OSHA 29 CFR section 1926. And the opinion of the building commissioner was that that language was not necessary. It is in another site plan that this body did approve, but when I look back at the special permit, it's very clearly specifies that the applicant has to meet all applicable laws, federal, state, city. So to me, it's redundant, but if we want it, we can keep it. Site plan didn't recommend it. So does anybody have any real strong feelings about whether it needs to be there? No? Okay, the only other addition from site plan is the addition of, not being able to lick my thumbs. The addition of a number 24, which has a temporary occupancy permit may be issued with either the new bank structure or the new coffee shop structure while site work required by a special permit, and this decision remain incomplete, subject to a phasing plan approved by the site plan committee. I think there have been concerns at site plan that projects were approved and then kind of in a holding pattern. So they wanted the ability for them to shift what they want to do if it comes to that. Councillor Ossing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this addresses some of the concerns the council had in the past, trying to get an occupancy permit for a place that has more than one facility associated with it. So you finish one building, but the permit says you got to have an occupancy permit when it's done. So when they're phasing it along, so the site plan recognized it and said, hey, right, so when they finish Starbucks, they can get an occupancy for Starbucks. When they finish the bank, they can get an occupancy for the bank and then the retail space. So it's really it's making it easier and takes the poor building department out of do we or don't we give them a occupancy permit. So that's the purpose for it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So the document that we received does have a few blanks in it. The site plan permit needs to be filled in. I believe it's 2022-1. The special permit is 21-100-8395. The latest revision is January 18th, 2022. And I thought you were supposed to be bringing us copies?
I have some.
Or,
I have a copy.
Yes, Mr. Bombasi.
at least for the file. I know we received a copy in our packets. For me, it's hard to, unless I was at site plan to hear, I don't know what the differences are and if they're really important enough for us to worry about. I don't know if there even were differences.
If I may, Madam Chair, the only major changes are all under the ground. As part of due diligence, we discovered some ledge in one portion of the property that necessitated moving around some of the underground utilities. So the city engineer has reviewed those changes, and he's fine with them, and again, nothing above the ground changed. So that's really the only change from what we submitted to the council is under the ground, basically.
All right, thank
The
you.
other change you'll see is that, again, because the city council is the site plan approval authority, the signature block will just be President Ossing. And so what we do, once it's approved by the council, we bring in one hard copy, it's signed by President Ossing, and then the engineer gets to go and make a whole bunch of hard copies and distribute them to the city with the final signature.
All right, do any of you want me to go through this specifically? It's typically not our purview for site plan. I know site plan does go through a lot of detail in looking at this, and they did do that for us, but we are the official body. We can run through this. Did anybody have any questions or concerns on the site plan language?
Madam Chair,
Councilor Ossing?
again, if it makes the council feel a little easier, I was at the site plan meeting last week when they discussed this, and this is what they all agreed to at the time, so there's nothing that's changed other than what Attorney Fox has mentioned.
Thank you. So if everybody's happy, if there's a motion,
Motion to approve with the conditions revised from site plan managers dated January 28th, 2022.
all right, and again, this should probably go to legal to be checked for proper form. Ms. Bully?
So moved.
I'm looking at you, she's not hearing me, though. Does this need to go to legal? All right, so this will be an additional one with the suspension to send it to legal on the 14th.
Madam Chair, if I may, I did promise my client I'd ask is if there's any opportunity to have it voted at the council's next meeting on February 14th, only because the client is hoping to apply for that building permit in mid-February, if at all possible, rather than waiting until early March. So I promised I'd ask, and if there's anything I can do to help speed that along, I will certainly do it.
I think if we were in full form at the legal department, I would not hesitate to push the issue, especially since our meeting isn't until the 14th. I'm not sure if they could get this done. It seems like it's a simple review. We can ask if it's not on the agenda in proper form, we'll have to deal with it. And does that work for everybody, that we can ask them to look at this between now and the 14th, have it ready to go? Councilor Ossing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You are correct. You can ask, the solicitor's office if they can make it ready for our February 14th meeting. If the Urban Affairs Committee agrees that it's okay to send a legal, the solicitor can take this information, put it in proper form by the 14th, if, as you indicate, has sufficient time to do that. So that's not a problem.
Maybe it can be a first assignment of our new solicitor. All right, so there's been a motion to approve the site plan, to request it to be on the February 14th agenda in proper form so we can vote on it that night. Is there further discussion? Everybody in favor? And it's 5, there's no opposed, so that is approved, and we will work on that one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Be in touch. Yeah, if you want to drop it off.
All right, the last item on our agenda is a communication from Attorney Falk for an application for a special permit from J&D Landscape Contractors to construct and operate both a contractor's yard and a landscape contractor's yard at the Airport Industrial Park 101, Airport Boulevard, Unit 12. So this had been something on our agenda for a while. It kind of got pushed off because of a number of issues. I don't know if you have anybody from J&D here tonight, if you're just going to work with it.
They weren't able to attend, but I'm fully authorized.
All right, so we have the draft a decision on a special permit that was sent to everybody. It is a typical special permit. The first question that I have with Councilor Brown here, and I don't know, Ms. Bully, I had asked you if you could get a legal opinion whether there's language in this on the second page where Councilor Tiona Brown was absent from the single session of the public hearing prior to the vote. She could file a written certification as to examination of all the evidence and be able to vote. I guess my concern was she technically was not a sitting councilor when the public hearing was held, so whether she can watch it after the fact as a newly elected, did you get an opinion? Or
Stated that there was a case pending that we might have an answer for that question, but at this point, there isn't anything black and white, but if she wants to participate, it would really be at the attorney's peril, because if someone did oppose it, it could cause a problem.
all right, so I hate to throw you under the bus, Councilor Brown. Are you comfortable with us keeping this language, or would you prefer it just be deleted and you would not participate?
I would say just based on what Ms. Williams said, that if it could come up to cause peril in the future and there is no current precedent set.
Mike.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Thank you. Without there being precedent set, and if it could cause a problem down the road, then I would choose to sit that out.
All right, thank you. So unless there's an objection from anybody that wants to push it, I'm going to remove number 13 from this document. I hope that there's not an issue. This had a public hearing. No one spoke for or against it. We have done other approvals at this site. I think we're all excited that the site is being used. He's asking for both a contractor and a landscape yard, which is a little bit different than what we've approved, but it's a right site for me, and I don't think to not have one counselor out of 11 of us be able to vote, I don't think is an issue. So thank you for your agreement there. So the decision on the special permit is a pretty typical, there's the findings of facts, which gives us all of the detail of where the site is. And then we have the subject to the conditions, the construction's accordance to applicable laws. Site plan review did give us a minor change on the site plan review, which is the issuance of the special permit is further subject to detailed site plan review by the Site Plan Review Committee. They did suggest that the name where it says that a final occupancy permit shall not be issued until the applicant has complied with all the conditions would become a final certificate of occupancy shall not be issued. There's the modification of the plans where the City Council or the Site Plan Review Committee may approve changes to the plan so long as they do not change the use or materially increase the impervious areas of the use, reduce the green area, alter traffic flow, or increase the size of the building. The incorporation of the submissions, everything we've gotten is part of this. There's language about the stormwater and erosion control management, which I'm sure Site Plan looks at very thoroughly when they do their due diligence. I guess I have a question on number 6, which is listed as screening. I looked back at the other 2 permits that we've given, and the wording for them was fencing. Section 650 18A 48 refers to screening, and other permits use fencing. So I don't know whether the screening is the right one and we use the wrong one with the other, but it does say, in accordance with that specific section, the applicant shall install fencing, vegetated screening, or a combination of screening types. Is everybody okay with screening? The outdoor storage areas is in accordance with that same section. The outdoor storage of vehicles, equipment, and materials shall be located on impervious and otherwise dust-free surfaces. The materials shall be stored with sufficient protections to avoid damage to the landscaped area and to avoid interference with the proper functioning of stormwater infrastructure. Lawn areas shall be separated from adjacent parking/storage areas with curbing. And that language is identical to what we approved for the Laraval contractor yard. The additional language in this, any storage of bark mulch at the site shall be subject to a fire safety conditions approved through the site plan review process. The site shall not be used to store grass clippings or similar landscaping debris that may generate odors. And that specific language is in the De Silva landscaping permit. So it's the two combined into one for this particular site. The indoor storage areas, the buildings are used to store vehicles, equipment, and materials indoors, shall be equipped with floor drainage systems designed to prevent fuel, oil, and other hazardous materials from entering the stormwater or sewer systems. Approved through the site plan review process. Vehicle repairs and maintenance. The site shall not be used for major repairs of vehicles, but minor repairs may be used, but only those that are part of the, exclusively operated as part of the use can be performed indoors. There's language about noise and air quality, about lighting, compliance with applicable laws, and our standard recording of the decision. Anybody have questions, comments, concerns? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much. Just to remind me, which unit is 12 in the,
Through you, Madam Chair. So 12 is just to the south of the cul-de-sac. It's the building that was built on spec and has since
the
been
very end?
sold. Excuse me?
at the very end?
Yes.
Okay, okay, thanks, appreciate it.
All right, is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Been moved and seconded to approve the language in the decision on a special permit. Is there further discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so the vote carries. I am not going to push the suspension on this one. I'll report it out and let it lay on the table. It can go to legal and be ready at the following meeting, hopefully. Does that work for you?
That's fine.
All right.
Motion to approve, motion to adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we are adjourned at 7:49.